procurement and tendering process, it just has squeezed the lifeblood out of the small operators in the local areas. The contracts they had, with government buildings and state agencies, that was their lifeblood for their businesses. Things like the caterers and suppliers to the HSE of food and other such stuffs, the stationery and office supplies to the council, the cleaning contractors to the Garda stations and to the government buildings. All those people are suffering, and the life is being squeezed out of them by the big operators, because they just can't simply hope to compete with the big operators, because the big operators, they can buy all the supplies in bulk and reduce their costs and so tender lower. But in line with the action plan for jobs regional, our aim is to keep the jobs and create jobs in the regional areas, and this is one way that we're actually killing the jobs in the area, because they have no hope. I have one man who had 25 people employed. He lost the contract for cleaning a government building, and therefore he had to leave go 10 of his 25 staff. And I know you're probably going to say, but the new contractors will take on people, but they're taking him on at a different cost. They're paying him lower wages. I know for a fact that some people cleaning government, and we're standing over this, are not getting paid bank holidays. And also these local guys, they were available at short notice to the organisations and the buildings, and to come in if there was a flood or if something happened locally, and they would be there on the spot to deal with it. And I know we're saying that we are making savings in the public sector by doing this, but are we afterwards? Because you have people being let go from their job, claiming social welfare. The revenue was circulating locally, whereas now the contractors who are doing jobs in the Kerry area, for example, because it's happening all over Ireland, but the contractors that have got the contract through the tendering process are in Dublin. So the revenue is going to be circulating once again in Dublin inside the Red Cow. I'm just asking that we would look at this and say, OK, let's tender by region. Keep the tendering process within the regions, keeping the jobs within the region. I know that we have to make savings. I understand that, and I'm not naive. I know we have to make savings in the public sector, but not squeezing the life out of the small operators in all our local areas. So I'll just await your reply, Minister. Thank you.
Thank you, Laska Hirlach. I want to thank sincerely Senator Maloney for raising this matter, because it actually is very timely that you are raising it, because, as you know, we have put in place a new structure, the Office of Government Procurement, which I have responsibility for at a ministerial level. And whilst 2014 was really the year of establishing the office, I very much see 2015 and indeed into next year being about making sure that we have the structures right and making sure that we have as many measures in place as possible to help SMEs. So any thoughts that you have, and you've raised some today, are certainly ones that will be given serious consideration, and maybe we can get into that in a moment. I mean, the main purpose of the EU public procurement regime is to open up the market and to ensure the free movement of supplies, services and works within the EU, having regard to the Treaty of Rome principles, including transparency, proportionality and equal treatment. This is the rationale that shapes the detailed rules set out in the EU directives governing the regime. It would be a breach of the EU rules for a public body to favour or discriminate against particular candidates on grounds such as nationality, geographic location or organisational size, and there are legal remedies which may be used against any public body infringing these rules. The new model for procurement was approved by the Government in September 2012 and envisages common goods and services such as utilities, professional services and marketing, print and stationery being procured by new central sourcing organisation, in this case the Office of Government Procurement, with sectoral specific goods and services and minor works being sourced to the sectors health, education, local government and defence. The aim of the reform is to deliver overall reductions in the cost of goods and services, better procurement services, introduction of technical standardisation, greater levels of professionalism among staff responsible for procurement and increased performance management of the central procurement function. Taxpayers demand, as the Senator rightly acknowledges, that government secures value for money in all of its spend. The fragmented procurement arrangements across the public service have enabled suppliers to charge different public service bodies different prices for the same goods and services. Clearly this isn't a sustainable situation, as the state cannot afford to continue to purchase works, goods and services in a manner that undermines the level level of services it can deliver. Reforms, though, are being carried out in a manner that recognises the clear importance of small and medium enterprises in this country's economic recovery. We have to be transparent and equitable in our treatment of all suppliers. And I want to make that point. I mean, we spend as a state about €8 billion a year on public procurement. That's roughly €23 million a day. If we're serious about economic recovery, we need our SMEs to be getting involved. We need them to have an equal chance in procuring. And that's why I'm not closing any doors in terms of measures that we can put in place to help our SMEs. And we had a very useful private members debate in this House a couple of weeks ago, where I actually accepted an opposition motion, a bill actually, on the issue of social clauses, because I think no one has a monopoly of good ideas in this, and I'm eager to hear them. The guidance to contracting authorities contained within Circular 1014, which is a circular we've put in place to try and help SMEs participate, and was launched by my department in April of last year, encourages those bodies to break large contracts down into lots where it's reasonable to do so. This enables smaller businesses to compete for these smaller elements of a larger contract. I think it gives them a much greater opportunity to actually compete. This has to be done, though, in a way that does not expose the state to undue risk or significant management overheads. The OGP appreciates that as it centralises more, there is a risk that people feel crowded out. The OGP therefore is working with bodies like Enterprise Ireland and Intertrade Ireland to help educate suppliers around building consortia in order that smaller businesses may come together and win larger offerings that the state may put to the marketplace. Aggregation arrangements can be implemented in a manner that achieves value for money but has a minimal impact on SMEs. The greater use, where appropriate, of multi-supplier frameworks can address local supplier issues while also ensuring ongoing cost competitiveness of the framework itself. Such multi-supplier frameworks may also offer SMEs the opportunity to participate in national level contracts, thereby offering valuable reference work when competing for public procurement contracts in other jurisdictions. Although changing the tendering procurement process to funding by region only is not allowed under the EU public procurement regime, the sourcing strategies developed by the OGP sourcing teams will be based on a full understanding of the supply market in question and the impacts that any new supply arrangement may have, and that's where we may be able to progress the concerns raised by the Senator. The OGP sourcing teams are made up of procurement professionals specialising in a spend category, supported by customer representatives appointed by the category councils. Before the OGP sourcing teams decide how they will go into the market for goods and services, they will carry out a full supply market assessment. This will include consideration of three main elements: current supply arrangements, supply market competition, and crucially direct consultation with suppliers. In evaluating current supply arrangements, the sourcing teams will consider items such as customer and stakeholder requirements, supplier types, who the suppliers are, regional supply structures and arrangements, suppliers' share of public sector bodies' business, suppliers' location, structures and sizes, and scope and length of contracts. So that will all be taken into consideration. In evaluating supply market competition, the sourcing teams will consider items such as the level of competition in the local and regional supply market, existence of barriers to entry, potential for substitute goods and services or new innovations, supply chain risks and issues, and other customers buying the same items, and what's known as the PESTEL trend analysis: political, economic, social, technological, environmental and legal, so as to gain an understanding of opportunities and threats that might exist to competition. Direct consultation with suppliers is also a key means through which sourcing teams may gain market insight through the issue of requests for information sent to all suppliers in a given category registered in e-tenders, and through bidders' briefing sessions and or consultation with trade and industry representative bodies. On the basis of this research, the sourcing team will have a full evidence-based understanding of the market. This will allow them to make an informed decision about how to go to market the sourcing strategy in such a way to deliver the optimum balance between value for money and risk. I would be the first to admit that we need to do more, and we're actively trying to pursue more measures to help SMEs. It's not all about value for money. It's absolutely about value for money for the taxpayer, but not just at a headline rate. We need our SMEs to be involved. We put a range of measures in place, and I look forward to building on them. Thank you.
Are you satisfied?
Yes, and thank you for that comprehensive answer, Minister, and I'm delighted to hear you, even your last few words there, saying that it isn't all about value. Sometimes people can tender lower, but they don't do a better job, and we had proof of that in my locality where I live. A guy tendered for a local sewerage scheme, and halfway through it he found he couldn't do it, and they took out my parish out of the whole thing. And even though when later we all found out that he had made a terrible mess of another job he was doing, but he still got it because he tendered lowest. It's not always the lowest that is the best, and I have been informed that that in some of the jobs that were being done in a local government building, where 2 people were going in doing the job, they've now been reduced to 1, and they're trying to get the same work done in the same time. So obviously corners are being cut. But anyway, I thank you for this reply. I will circulate it among a few of the people who raised this issue with me locally, and hopefully we can come to some arrangement of ensuring jobs are kept in the locality.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Minister. If you wish,
yes, I do. Thank you, Leske Hirlach. And I thank Senator Maloney again for raising this important matter. And when discussing the issue with local suppliers, I'd also suggest that she and indeed other public representatives bring to their attention a number of new measures we've put in place to try and help SMEs. For example, we're currently considering the issue of social clauses, which is, can things like unemployment, areas of disadvantage, can these be factored into decisions? And we'll shortly have progress on that. There's a working group that Minister Howland in fact set up on that last year. We've put in place Meet the Buyer events, where there's opportunities for SMEs to come to events and face-to-face meet with the big public sector buyers and actually have human conversations rather than just talking to a machine. Intertrade Ireland on a cross-border basis are working on providing supports and even grants for upskilling of SMEs. I recently launched a new tender advisory service which guarantees an SME an answer to a query within a certain number of working days, a quick turnaround to a query. And crucially, I think from a local point of view, and in conclusion, Leske Hirlach, the local enterprise offices have all now been given training in the area of procurement. I think the local enterprise offices are the interface for all our businesses with the state, and I want to see them play a greater role, and certainly look forward to the opportunities for the local enterprise offices along with the OGP to hold as many training days and information days for SMEs in various communities, and be very interested in trying to bring one to your own county in due course.
With your indulgence, can I just ask the Minister one tiny question? Have these face-to-face meetings taken place yet, or when is the time scale for all these meetings?
We had 2 last year. We had one in Belfast and one in Dublin. It's done on a cross-border basis. There was about 1,000 businesses, I think, at the one in Dublin. I want to see them take place on a more regional basis, though, and I'm looking to see how we can roll them out now to the regions, working with the LEOs, and I'll report back to you on that in due course.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you.